See, actually, this particular configuration that's available on your screen. It's again the example of go back and ARQ, but this will provide you the information. The go back and type of configuration. See here. We again considering this as a single window or 1-bit window protocol or 3-bit window protocol. And then just remember that we are using the concept of piggybacking in bidirection. So whenever the sender is ready, sender gets the data from the network layer. The data link layer gets the data from the network layer. It's translated into the specified format, that is the frame format. These frames are sent. What is the configuration associated with this particular frame? Say white, gray, blue, and black. White indicates acknowledgement number, gray indicates sequence number, blue indicates the data, and black indicates the trailer associated with the data, or it's the frame delimiter. It can be a frame delimiter or the trailer. We are sending that particular data from sender to the receiver. We have a sender window and a receiver window. A 1-bit receiver window. Sender window may be 3-bit, 4-bit, but the data is received in a single window. Similarly, from the receiver end, we are actually sending the data. We are getting the data from the network layer. That data is formatted with the support of data link layer. That data is then translated with the support of the physical layer towards the sender end, or we will call it as point A and point B. B is generating the data, and that particular data is formulated connected with the phone, connectivity block. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. We were utilizing the piggybacking. Piggybacking, with the concept of this piggybacking, whenever the sender sends a frame 0, acknowledgement of that particular frame can be sent if it's a duplex type of communication from the receiver's end, which will consist of the acknowledgement number and the sequence number of the received frame. And this particular within the specified time duration. If you are not at all receiving within the specified time duration, then the frame or acknowledgement information is supposed to be lost into the, and if the acknowledgement is not at all received related to the frame, the data needs to be retransmitted. That is arithmetic repeat request. Go back to the specified frame and send again that frame. That is applicable now for sender as well as the receiver. And then it will be a duplex type of communication. This duplex type of communication we are utilizing specifically in the SDLC format. The SDLC format or SDLC protocol can be operated in the specified various types of modes. In case of normal response mode, if it's the point-to-point type of communication, the command is generated from the primary terminal, and based on that particular command, the response is obtained from the secondary terminal. There is only one secondary terminal. And whenever we are talking about this, it's a point-to-point protocol. That means only 2 points are connected. That means one local area network is getting connected to another local area network, but the local area network, a point-to-point communication will help us in ensuring that quality of service is provided from the sender to the receiver. And this normal response mode will help in properly developing the protocols, and these typical practical protocols are the SDLC protocols. The SDLC protocols, I have told you, it's based on some standards. It's widely implemented for providing a duplex type of communication, point to point, that is peer to peer, and multi-point network. The network may be a switched network or a non-switched network, whatever may be the configuration. The SDLC supports several modes of operation, including single sliding window mode. Whenever we are considering single sliding window mode, it's a reliable delivery. But the higher level, that is transmission control protocol, the most internet applications are SDLCs are number to provide data rate, but concept for the numbered another advantage associated with that the control and the specific bit pattern used for controlling or providing control for representing the data. This particular configuration provided many subsets or many configurations for the SDLC type of protocol. Typically, one of the important subsets is the synchronous data link protocol, or it's also known as SDLC protocol, which is a proprietary protocol developed by, initially it was developed by IBM. IBM first of all developed this SDLC protocol, and after that only it was standardized, and the standard was supposed to be the SDLC standard. This protocol. Another subset associated with this SDLC protocol is the link access procedure, LAP protocol. LAP protocol, again there are two different configurations associated with this LAP, link access procedure protocol. One is LAP balanced and LAP unbalanced. What else associated with this SDLC protocol is that SDLC protocol first of all provided us the stations and configurations. The stations, specific networking stations and configuration associated with the networking stations was first of all considered sorry, was first of all considered in SDLC protocol. Then the specified operational mode, whether the node is operational or not, or whether the node is connected but in a non-operational mode, that was finalized. Then frame structure was initially finalized at SDLC protocol. We have seen what might be the frame structure, but in practical SDLC protocol, we have actually finalized the frame structure. Then specific commands, the commands for establishing the connection, the commands for sending the data, the commands for error detection, the commands related to the responses from the sender as well as the receiver. the primary station, the secondary station, the combined station, were actually finalized in particular HLC protocol. The primary station can be is used as the controlling station for the link. It has the responsibility of controlling all other stations on the link. Usually, if it's a point to point, then the secondary station is also controlled by the primary station. The primary station actually issues the command and secondary station issues response, as shown in the PowerPoint. Command and response. Despite this particular important aspect, the primary station is also responsible for the organization of the data. Organization of the data flow on the link. It also takes care of the error recovery at the data link layer. That is at the layer 2. That's very, very important. The primary station and the secondary station, if the data link control protocol used is SDLC, and if a primary station is present, a secondary station must be also present so that the communication will take place. The secondary station is used under the control of primary station. It has, if primary and secondary, the stations are defined. The secondary station does not have an ability or direct responsibility of controlling the data or controlling the link or controlling the error. It's only activated when requested by the primary. That gives rise to another concept, master and slave. That master and slave turn out to be the client server or server client configuration. When primary station, client will be a secondary station. Primary station contains the separate login link with multiple secondary stations. And that is point to multi-point type of connection. And the station, if it can primary as well as the secondary combined station. All combined stations are able to send and receive. The combined station will be sender as well as receiver, and the responses without permission of the other station in the link. Each combined station is having a full control of itself, and it does not rely on other stations, whether other stations are present in the network or not. Based on that, the combined stations are not at all. No other stations can control any combined station. It's the primary station and we have a combined station, but combined station will have controlling authority. Primary station, even if it's present, with support of combined station only can provide the primary function. The configuration associated with the station provides the relationship actually between the hardware devices on a link. And based on these hardware devices, it may be a balanced type of configuration, it may be a symmetrical type of configuration, or it may be an unbalanced type of configuration. Whenever we are talking about the symmetrical configuration, whenever we are utilizing, say, a dial-up type of link at the primary station or at the sender station, the data terminal with a modem, then similar type of modem needs to be utilized if you want to compute the LDLC protocol at the receiver also. That means if you are modem at the sender station, you must utilize modem at the receiver also. And this configuration is the symmetrical type of configuration. The unbalanced type of configuration, the SDLC link may be consisting of a primary station or one or more secondary stations. The unbalanced condition, why it's the name unbalanced condition? Because one station controls the other station. Any of the following can be the full duplex type of configuration or duplex type of configuration. That is one. Point to point or point to multi-point. That is second. Or multi-point to multi-point. That is third. But whenever we are utilizing this, this is known as an unbalanced type of configuration. In the balanced configuration, The HDLC link consists of two or more combined stations. Each of the station has equal and complementary, just again remember it, equal and complementary responsibility compared to each other. The complementary responsibility compared to each other actually provides us either the configuration is full duplex or a half duplex type of configuration. And
Hello,
the
sir.
bulk configuration, yes,
Uh,
yes, any doubt?
and screen is not visible, sir.
Hello, screen is not visible.
Yes, and noise is also not clear, sir. Your sound is not clear. Noise is
Sound
there
is
in
not clear.
between.
Okay. Okay, I will just change my headset. Okay, is the audio clear now? Okay, let me share the same PPT. Okay, is the screen visible? The configurations. We were talking about the configurations. The configurations for the normal response mode, for point to point, and multi-point communication. In the multi-point communication, we have a primary station and the two secondary stations. The two secondary stations are actually providing the response based on the command that are generated from the primary terminal. This particular configuration, asynchronous balance mode, we have command and response from the combined terminal and command and response from another combined terminal. It's again a point to point, but here once the connection is established with the help of the command, a suitable response is generated from the receiver. and huge amount of data can be communicated without synchronization in between the sender and receiver, and that's why it's known as a asynchronous balance mode. This asynchronous balance mode actually helped us in developing the protocols for duplex type of communication, where the terminals are the intelligent terminals. The intelligent terminals are able to send the data as well as able to receive the data, receive or able to process the received data. These particular configurations are actually providing us the configurations supported for the primary stations and multiple secondary stations. The balanced configurations provides us full duplex or half duplex type of configuration. The operational modes, HDLC operational modes are typically based on this response. We can say at normal response mode. That was the first that I have shown you in the first slide associated with the HDLC. It's a normal response mode. Then second is the asynchronous response mode. It's typically known as the ARM or the asynchronous balance mode. Asynchronous balance mode, it's the ABM format. In this ABM format, actually, the primary station does not initiate transfer to the secondary station, or secondary station also does not wait for the explicit permission from the primary station. The frames may be more than just acknowledgement frames. That is, the huge amount of data can be translated. The information may contain data, the information may contain control information regarding the status of the primary station or a secondary station. This actually, asynchronous response mode actually minimizes overheads on the link. Primary station, secondary station, both does not require any type of permission. But the limitation is that this particular asynchronous, the secondary station must wait until it detects an idle channel before it transfers any frame. That is, the media is available or not, or the bandwidth is available or not. And that actually provided us the second part of the data link layer, that is link access mode. Whether the link can be utilized in the duplex mode, whether the full bandwidth associated with the link can be, that we will cover in the our fourth unit. But at present, just get the information about the asynchronous response mode. The primary station maintains its own responsibilities. The important responsibilities associated with both the stations, primary as well as secondary station, will be primary will look out for error recovery, establishing the link, and terminating the link. The response mode, asynchronous response mode, huge amount of data can be transmitted if once the connection is established. Just remember at this particular juncture, this particular statement. Huge amount of data can be translated from source to destination end in a asynchronous way, and that gave rise to one of the protocol that is used for wide area networking, and that is ATM, asynchronous transfer mode. Huge amount of data, the typical concept that we are utilizing for the transmission of video over internet.
Sir, your screen is not visible.
Again, screen is not visible. Okay. The problem associated with the bandwidth. Okay, is it available now? Multiple screens can't be shared. I'm connected by using my mobile. That's why the bandwidth is somewhat limited. Okay, the command response mode, asynchronous balance mode. There are three different types of frames that are actually defined. These frames are known as I frame, that is information frame, then S frame, that are typically known as supervisory frame, and unnumbered frame, which may contain the link management information. So the format that is associated with the HDLC frame, the first type of frame, information frame. The information frame will have a specified format, flag, starting flag and ending flag. Starting flag, ending flag. We have iframe. Iframe is the information frame. Then it will contains the address and control information. In the first format, either it may be for establishing of the connection, it may be the address, and for all remaining, it may be the address slash control information. So, but the frame format is fixed here. The flag, address, then control information, user information is the actual data, and FCS is the frame check sequence for providing the forward error correction. This is the specified format of HDLC frame. I frame, that is information frame. The supervisory frame will consist of the flag, address, control, frame check sequence, and again flag. That is, it will not at all contain any type of data, but it will only consist of the starting flag and ending flag, the address, the whether it's the source address or whether it's the destination address, and what type of control information is supported, which actually provides us flow control as well as the error control, the important functioning associated with the data link layer protocols, the flow control and the error control. The supervisory frames does not contain any amount of data. It will only consist of the control information, the frame check sequences, that is forward error correction codes. The information or the S frame will have again the same format, starting flag, ending flag, but after starting flag it will be the address, then it will be control information, then frame check sequence, no user information or no data, no usable data, which may be handed over to the network layer. So for S frame only will combine the information associated with the flow control and error control. Then unnumbered frame will provide us the link management information. It will again, the data will not at all be available with U frames. U frames are unnumbered frames. It will have the similar formation associated with the information frames, but instead of user information, it will contain the management information. That management information is typically the management of the link, the specified control field for the different frames, the sender, the receiver. The iframe will consist of the sender, the receiver. The supervisory frame will consist of a specified code, and unnumbered frame will consist of the code with primary information and again the specified code. This will be the control field format. It's typically a 8-bit control field format. What these 8 bits will consist of? the I frame will start with 0. The S frame will start with 1 0 and U frame will start with 1 1. So once this is fixed, the I frame, if it's 0, the receiver will get the information that the data is coming or actual information is coming in this particular frame. So the data will be handed over to the network layer. The network layer which is just adjacent to the data link layer at the receiving end. If the control field consists of the start consists of 1 0, then receiver will identify that it's a supervisory frame. It's a supervisory frame. So the control information will be associated with the code. The code may be different. It may be 100100 or 11. Based on that, suitable supervisory instructions will be available. The unnumbered frame, receiver will identify that if the frame consists of the control field consists of 1 1 as the starting bits, then it's the unnumbered frame. That is specifically for identification of the control field format for information frame, supervisory frame, and unnumbered frame. See the various configurations for unnumbered frame. Initially, if it's 0 0 and if the second code is 0 0 1, then the command that is sent is set normal response mode. The initial set normal response mode, that is the command is from the primary terminal and the response is from the secondary terminal. So for the unnumbered frame, if initially I have told you it's 0 0 1 1 0 1 1 0. This is 0 0, then 1 1, then 1 0, and 0 1 is not at all utilized here, but at present you can see that those can be utilized as the proper control command and response. When the U-frame control information consists of 11011, then it's the extended set normal response mode. If it's 11 and 100, second code is 100, then it's the set asynchronous balance mode. Or if the transfer is completed, then it's the disconnect mode. The response will be disconnect mode. That is, the data is being transmitted. If it's 11 and 110, then it's the extended asynchronous balance mode. Then if it's 00000, it's the unnumbered information. That is UI. If it's 00110, then it's unnumbered acknowledgement. See the three types of frames: information frame, supervisory frame, and unnumbered frame. Unnumbered frame configurations. We have two different codes for unnumbered frame. In the previous starting will be 1 1. Then these codes will be 00011011. For that, if it's 000 up to 111, there are additional operations that can be provided with the specified code. And what are those operations? Those are the commands for U frame. At present only all are not at all shown. 001, 011, all 001 for 00 will provide set normal response mode. If it's 11 and 001, it will be reset. If it's 11 and 101, it's the exchange ID. And if it's 10 and 001, it's the frame reject. The frame reject, if this information or if this command is obtained at the U frame control, then that particular rejected frame needs to be retranslated. Why this frame is rejected? It may be a duplicate frame that is received at the receiver end. It may be the lossy frame or frame with error. This error may be happening at the receiver end, and that's why the frame will be rejected. So the unnumbered frame will have the configuration as 1110, then again the frame check sequence, then 001. That will be the management information. That will be the management information. I think in the second reading, I think you will get all this. Try to see this particular example that's given in Persons group. Example 11.9 from Persons group. This is the connection establishment and connection release. I have told you the primitives that are utilized in the data communication. Connect, disconnect, send, receive, and indication. Remember again, entire data communication is depending on these particular 5 primitives. These 5 primitives are connect, disconnect, send, receive, and indication. This indication may be control signal. This indication may be a error signal. This indication may be a flow control signal. This indication may be a forward error correction. This indication may be a rejection of the duplicate frame. The entire connection and disconnection. See here, the flag will be, the connection establishment will be for the two frames. The two frames will have the flag. Then what will be this B? B is the address. B is the address. The frame from node A is to be sent to node B. That's why B here. Then it will have a controls. The control bits are 1111 100. And this will be the additional either 0 or 1. Either 0 or 1. Depending on that, the format associated with the frame will be. Then the management data, then the frame check sequence, and the flag. So it will be the format associated with the U frame. Similarly, the U frame that is generated from node B, the U frame that is generated from node B will have the source address or the address of A. The information or the frame is generated, the U frame is generated from node B and is to be destined at node A. And that's why the address A. The remaining all will be the 1100 and 110. This will be the U frame. Once this connection is established, both node A and node B now knows that the path is established. Now the data can be transmitted. So iframes will be transmitted. Iframes will be transmitted whenever the data transfer is completed. The sender will release the connection and the information about releasing the connection will be sent to the receiver, which will consist of the U frame with disconnection, DISC, with disconnection. This will be sent and this disconnection will be acknowledged by node B. This will actually terminate the connection from both sides. The connection is released from node B also, and this releasing of the connection is acknowledged. That means all the frames are properly received at node B, all the frames are properly defragmented, all the frames are properly processed, and the information frame data is handed over to the network layer. Same is the case with the sender send. And with the support of this, we can achieve, though it's somewhat complicated because of continuously changing of the U frame data, but the connection establishment and connection release can be very easily synchronized in node A and node B. And that is the advantage associated with this specified configuration. You can see also this particular example of piggybacking without error. It's a data frame 0, the data frame 1, then data frame 0 again, which is acknowledged. Then all these are the iframes, with the necessary control information 00 dash 1, 01 dash 0, 00 dash 2, 01 dash 2, 02 dash 2. It's the specification associated with the data frame 2, data frame 0, data frame 1, but within the specified format. See, the last one, S frame, supervisory frame. Supervisory frame will not at all consist. All these upper 5 frames are the iframes. These iframes will consist of the data. For every iframe, since the data is generated from node A, the address will be of node B. If the frame is generated from node B, the address will be of node A. Source address will be of node. Then after that, it's the control information. Then actually the data. Then the frame check sequence to check the error associated with the data. That's how a duplex type of communication can be established by piggybacking the acknowledgement frame with the data frames from the node B. Have to go through the Person's book for understanding this particular concept. Properly understand the concept of iframe. Properly understand the concept of supervisory frame. Note again, supervisory frame does not contain any data, and unnumbered frame contains the data that is associated with the management of information or management of the link, management of the link layer, management of the data link layer. That's how in practice we are utilizing the HDLC type of configuration or HDLC protocols. These HDLC protocols actually first of all gave us the information associated with the link, establishment of a link, then disconnection of the link, then sending of the data, then controlling the data with the help of supervisory frame, and managing the link with the help of unnumbered frames. The 3 different modes associated must be properly known. The configuration, the framing, the link establishment, the frames, the format associated with iframe, the format associated with S frame, the format associated with U frame. It's not that for all times there will be some management information. There may be some management that is required, and that's why the information associated with the data, that is management information for U frame, is always kept as a optional. It's not that the information for I frame and information for U frame will be always there. There may not be management information. Once the link is established, there may not be a management information. The management information will be required only if the link wants to release the connection, the link wants to resend the non-acknowledged frame. Then whenever we are talking about the starting flag, the size associated with the frames, the starting flag and ending flag will be always 8 bits. In SDLC protocol, the starting flag, ending flag will be always 8 bits. The address field that was suggested in the initial SDLC protocols was again 8 bits. So source address and destination address after flag. In case of iframe, it's flag, address, control, then actual data, then frame check sequence, and again the closing flag or starting flag, ending flag. The control field may be of 8 to 16 bits. The information in case of iframe should be always greater than 0. The information, if it's less than 0, then it's the S frame, or if it's 0, then it's the S frame. Then the frame check sequence, the number of bits that can be used may be 16 bit or 32 bits. It may be a 16-bit cyclic redundancy code or 32-bit cyclic redundancy code in order to check the forward error as well as the backward error, the 16 or 32 bit. The closing is always a 8-bit closing flag, starting flag, closing flag. It's always a 8-bit. And here actually it was standardized as 0, then consecutive 1, 6 times, then again 0. So the starting bit will be 0, then consecutive 6 once, and then 0. That will be the starting and ending flag. The address field identifies the primary and secondary station. Here, the addresses associated with the primary and secondary stations. Each station on the link will have a unique address. Remember this address field. Each station on one particular link, it may be a point to multi-point link, it may be a multi-point to multi-point link, but the address field will be always a unique. It may be a 8-bit addresses. In the normal modifications, 16-bit addresses, 32-bit addresses were utilized for as source addresses and destination addresses. And typically in case of the Ethernet frames, 48-bit was the length of the address field, or 48-bit is the length of the address field that we are utilizing nowadays. Source address and destination address. The Ethernet frame format design was entirely based on the basic frame format that was suggested in HDLC frame format. The information transfer format, the supervisory format, the frame check sequence format. The cyclic redundancy check, we have seen, it may be 16-bit, 32-bit. Nowadays, 128-bit cyclic redundancy codes are utilized again if a huge amount of data is asynchronously transmitted with the support of asynchronous transfer mode. Specifically, frame check sequence is, remember, frame check sequence is used for detecting the error. If the errors are detected, the frames are to be retransmitted. ARQ, automatic repeat request. If the frame check sequence or the cyclic redundancy code polynomial division at the receiving end does not provide us the remainder as 0, then that particular frame is a frame with error. That particular frame needs to be retransmitted by the sender end. Commands and responses. Just go through this. Information, format commands, SDLC commands and responses. Information transfer, supervisory transfer and unnumbered format. The commands and responses. Format commands and format responses. I information. For command, if it's the I frame, then response is also I frame. For supervisory format, receive ready, RR. Receive not ready, RNR. Reject, REJ. Selective reject. The specified numbered frame is to be rejected because there is an error in that selected frame. So, selective reject. Then in the unnumbered format, the commands and the responses are quite typical. Set normal response mode. Then set asynchronous response mode. Then set asynchronous balance mode. Then disconnect. Set normal response mode. Set asynchronous response mode extended. Set asynchronous balance mode extended. Set initialization mode. Then UP will be unnumbered pool, unnumbered information UI, exchange the information, reset the format. Reset the format will provide the information that whatever information or whatever the frames that are sent in the unnumbered format, please reset all and then restart again. Then restart again. Then again the I format or I information is sent. Then again the supervisory information is sent if specific response is to be provided. Receive ready and receive not ready actually provides us the flow control. Reject and selective reject actually provides us the error control and retransmission. Error control and retransmission. See the basic task at data link layer. At data link layer, we have the important task of framing. We have an important task of flow control, and we have an important task of error control. Framing provides us the formatting. Then the flow control, which manages the data of specific length, which can be processed by the receiver and vice versa. That is similar will be the information that can be processed by the sender. And the error control. It may be a forward error control, and if error occurs, the frame is to be retransmitted. Note this very, very clearly. If the error occurs, information is to be retransmitted. We'll share again this particular PDF. This particular PDF is from IIT Kharagpur, which actually provides us the information about various components associated with the HDLC format. You can also search on Google HDLC IIT Kharagpur. It's version 2. This particular document is available in open mode. This information provides us how actually the HDLC functions. Normal response mode, asynchronous response mode, asynchronous balance mode. Okay. We'll take a break. Then we'll go for another protocol, that is point-to-point protocol, which is again the very practical protocol that we are utilizing nowadays. I will take the questions. Point-to-point protocol will be our last subunit for unit 3. Then unit 1, unit 2, unit 3 are completed. Unit 4 will start with second component of the data link layer, that is link access control. Link access mode, link access control, where we will see the Ethernet frame format, where we will see the multi-terminal sharing or multi-point sharing or bandwidth utilization and bandwidth sharing by multiple terminals for the communication. That will be our unit 4. That present again what are the difficulties associated with understanding the concept of SDLC. Akanksha, Akanksha Kapre, Aniruddha Joshi, Anurag Chaudhary, Divesh, you understand the concept associated with?
No doubt, sir. No doubt.
No doubt. This particular concept of data link layer, then all the protocols are quite simple. You must understand the basic concept. These are the practical protocols that we are utilizing. Remember always the 5 primitives: connection, disconnection, send, receive, and indication. Everywhere we are utilizing these 5 primitives. In every protocol we are utilizing. Here again, information sent, connection is established, information is sent, and control information. Control information includes supervisory as well as link management. Supervisory frames does not contain any data, and unnumbered frame provides us the information relating to the management of the link. So if you want to reject the frames, reject the frames. The rejected frames need to be retransmitted. If you want to acknowledge the frames and provide the information to the network layer at the receiving end for processing the data, then that information is provided.
म्हणून तुला विचारलं. is full traverse आणि size आपण फक्त push pop and traverse लक्षात ठेवू जी मेनली इम्पॉर्टंट आहे. is empty पण तू वाचलंस तर no displays elements of stack.
You will see the point-to-point protocol. These can be utilized for point-to-point as well as the multi-point configurations. The most practical protocols that gave rise to the development of internet. Previously, I have told you we were utilizing dial-up type of modem. Dial-up type of modem were utilizing the type of connectivity for a LAN and a WAN, or one particular terminal located at a specified distance to be connected to the network of network. We were utilizing this point-to-point type of protocol. The concept is again the similar type of concept. Some of the concept of PPP, point-to-point protocol, are entirely depending on the concept that were proposed in the SDLC. Only the difference is that SDLC is a bit-oriented protocol, whereas PPP is a byte-oriented protocol. The PPP bit-oriented and byte-oriented. This particular formation will understand the basic difference in the PPP protocol and the SDLC type of protocol. Remember, one of the component of SDLC, synchronous data link control, SDLC, is still utilized in the SNA architecture, which is a proprietary architecture of IBM. At present also, SDLC is utilized for the IBM frameworks, for the IBM mainframe, connected components, connected data terminals. They are still utilizing SDLC type of format. The point-to-point protocol was developed in order to provide the internet connectivity from the service provider to the data terminals. So household type of connectivity, LAN to WAN type of connectivity was supported or utilized with the help of point-to-point protocol. The point-to-point protocol consists of the frame format. The frame format is again the specified frame format supported at the data link layer. The information is within the two flags, the flag, starting flag and ending flag. Then it's a 1 byte. So 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0. That will be the starting flag. Then address. Address, it's a 8 bit, that is 1 byte. So from 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 to 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. You can provide these many number of addresses for the data terminal, and that's the beauty that is associated with the digital formats which are assigned the digital data which is assigned as a 1 byte address. Of course, nowadays we are not at all utilizing 1 byte. It's always either a 2 byte, 4 byte, or 8 byte type of addressing scheme. Typically, 132 bits are typically utilized nowadays for IP version 6. That's the addressing format that is utilized for IP version 6. But initially, the point-to-point protocol for establishing a connection for a household terminal with the internet service provider, the devices were common devices. That is, if the modem is utilized at the household for achieving the connectivity, similar configuration modem will be used at the service provider. And that gave rise to the development of the various devices such as multiplexers. The multiplexers, the typical configuration may be the home terminal, your home terminal connected with the modem, connected to the telephone line or the communication media. At the receiving end, it will be again a modem. This particular modem, there will be a modem rack at the service provider end. This is our ISP. At the ISP end, we have the various modems. Available modem will be selected with the help of the devices which were typically known as the concentrators. These concentrators were able to select the available modem. This modem is then connected to the data terminal, which is connected to the network of network. So it's your household terminal connected to the modem getting connected to the communication media. Similar type of modem, if you are utilizing V90 type of modem at the source end, V90 standard modem is utilized by the service provider. Then and then only point-to-point connectivity is available. The remaining frame format is again the same. 1 byte address, 1 byte control. The control will start with 1 and remaining 6 actually provides the various control commands. Then the protocol that is used for processing. The protocol that is used for processing were 1 or 2 byte, and this payload was variable but was always greater than or equal to 0. Not always equal to 0, the payload is always greater than 0. Then at that time also 2 or 4 bytes. Remember, bit is different, bytes. 4 byte means 32-bit frame check sequence is utilized. This particular frame check sequence is used to identify the error and again the flag. So this particular PPP frame format will always have a variable size. Barring this particular formation is always fixed. The data may be variable. And this is the PPP frame format that we are utilizing. Remember again, it's a byte oriented protocol. Since it's a byte oriented protocol, byte stuffing is used with the escape byte. That is, if consecutive ones are available in the data, 5 ones are available, then insert, instead of inserting, use this particular escape byte or stuff the data with escape byte, so that the receiver will identify that this particular byte is the stuffed byte and that can be removed at the receiving end. Instead of delimiting the 0, the stuffed 0 or 1, which was utilized typically for the SDLC protocol, it's a bit oriented protocol. Just remember the first difference in SDLC protocol and PPP protocol. In case of SDLC protocol, it's a bit oriented protocol and bit stuffing is utilized. In case of PPP protocol, it's a byte oriented protocol and escape byte is stuffed. in order to avoid the confusion in the starting flag and the data which may contains the specific sequence, that is 0 consecutive 6 ones and 0. So whenever that appears, stuff the escape byte, stuff the escape byte, so that the receiver will identify that after the consecutive 5 ones, whatever the data is stuffed is nothing but a escape byte. This is the sequence of the escape byte: 0, 5 consecutive ones, then again 0 and 1. It's a byte that is being stuffed in PPP protocol. See now the transition phases, a very important diagram associated with the transition phases for establishing the connection. Initially check whether the communication media is available. Previously we were utilizing the telephone line as the communication media. So the telephone line, whenever the dial tone is available, carrier is detected. Whenever the carrier is detected, establish the connection. If the connection is not established, return back and try again to detect the carrier. Once the carrier is detected, it's similar to establishment of our connection. See again, we are utilizing the communication media as telephone line. So it's the circuit switching parameter that is being utilized to establish a point-to-point protocol. In case of our handset, telephone handset, we are checking by lifting our handset, we are checking whether the dial tone is received or not. Here also the modem will check whether the dial tone is available, whether the carrier is available. When the carrier is available, establish the connection. The connection establishment is with the support of options which are agreed by both the parties. And when these particular options are agreed by both the parties, along with the connection also provides the authentication, that is provide the username and password. If the authentication fails, then terminate the connection, carrier is dropped, and again the connection for connection establishment, the carrier is to be detected, then again send the information for establishing the connection. Connect, disconnect. When the connection is authenticated, authentication when it's successful, then it's the connection to the network layer. Connection to the network layer or connection to the another network with the support of network layer configuration. There may be two different configurations. If the authentication is not at all required, that may be depending on the internet service provider. If the internet service provider does not need any authentication, then immediately establish the connection and provide the networking configuration. So the network will be connected with the network layer configuration. Whenever that network layer configuration is done, whenever the task is completed, terminate the connectivity, that is disconnect. Remember again 5 primitives: connect, disconnect, send, receive, and control. Everywhere control is, see, if the connection is not established, a failed indication will be provided. The terminal is dead. If the connection is not established or the carrier is not detected, then it also is termed as a fail. If the carrier is detected, the connection will be established. Once the connection is established, authenticate that connection. This is the difference. There is no authentication in SDLC protocol, but the authentication that is provided in PPP protocol is again by utilizing two different protocols. One protocol specifically for the Unix or Linux type of configuration for authentication was known as SLIP protocol, Serial In Line Protocol, specifically for authentication in that Unix or Linux type of configuration. Then in case of Windows or non-Unix type of configuration, the protocol that was typically utilized for authentication was CHAP protocol, Challenge Handshake Authentication Protocol, CHAP. We did not require this particular information, but it was the first protocol, CHAP protocol. Along with CHAP, there were different type of authentication protocols that were also supported for the Windows or non-Unix type of platform. But the concept of authentication was introduced here, and that is the beauty associated with this particular point-to-point protocol, where in case of HDLC protocols, no authentication was utilized. Here, once the connection is established, authenticate that connection. Once you are authenticated, you are part of the network. Provide all the information associated with the network layer, that is send and receive the data. Once the data is completely received, terminate the connection. Terminate the connection, the carrier will be dropped. Again, whenever you want to re-establish the connection, detect the carrier, establish the connection, again authenticate. If you are authenticated, provide the networking functions. If the authentication is not required by the network, provide directly the networking connections. Then once the data is exchanged, terminate the connection. Identify these particular transition phases associated with the point-to-point protocol. That actually provides you the entire concept. Remember again, the data terminal which is connected to modem. Modem will detect the carrier. If the modem detects the carrier, modem will dial the specified number of the internet service provider. When that particular internet service provider responds, the options associated with the authentication will be provided to the user, that is your username and password. Those username and password will be authenticated. If the authentication fails, then it's again the termination of the connection. If the authentication is verified, then your data terminal is connected to the network of network. And once the connection is established, complete the task of information exchange, either in a duplex mode or in a client server mode or in a peer-to-peer mode. And peer-to-peer mode, actually this was the basic concept for establishing point-to-point connectivity. If your task of the data exchange is completed, then terminate the connection. All the 5 primitives are sent, received. Data is sent, data is received. How the data is sent, data is received? First of all, establish the connection, authenticate that connection, and after the data exchange is completed, terminate that connection. And we, in the meanwhile, provide the indication everywhere. If the connection fails to establish, failed indication is provided. That is, your telephone line is dead, no carrier can be detected. If the telephone line is functioning, then the carrier can be detected. When the carrier is detected, the connection can be established. When the connection is established, provide the authentication. When the authentication is provided, provide the networking functions, that is send and receive the data, send and receive the authenticated information or intelligent information. Once that task is completed, once that task is entirely done, then terminate the connection. When you are terminating, carrier is dropped. This is an important transition phasor diagram associated with point-to-point protocol. Authentication is again optional, but it was introduced so that only the authenticated users can be connected to the service provider. the different types of in-between protocols. The flag, address, control, protocol, various types of configuration were utilized. The AP, authentication protocol, LCP, link control protocol, NCP, network control protocol, PAP, and CHAP. These are the typically authentication protocols. The CHAP is challenge handshake authentication protocols. Then PAP protocol is typically, I don't remember the long form of PAP, but it's the authentication protocol. Then network connection protocols, NCP protocols. The NCP protocols, authentication protocols will have the specified format based on the protocols. Protocols, remember again the previous slide, frame format slide. One or two byte protocol. This 1 or 2 byte protocol will be the protocols such as LCP, authentication protocol, NCP protocol, link control protocol. Important is link control protocol, authentication protocol, and network control protocol. And exchange the data. Data from the various networking protocols will be available at the data link layer or handed over to the network layer. This format is fixed. Flag is fixed, 8-bit. Address is fixed. It's either 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, or nowadays 128 bits. Then nowadays we are utilizing the extension of this particular protocol, PPP protocol, point-to-point protocol over Ethernet. Over Ethernet changes the size of the addresses. The size of the source address or destination address based on your host terminal will be, if you are utilizing the Ethernet cards, will be 48-bit. That 48-bit, that is the unique physical address that can be utilized in point-to-point protocol. And that's how multiplexing associated with the various tasks can be seen for the point-to-point protocol. One typical case, the payload. The payload will be control or link control protocol, LCP packet, will have a code. That particular code will be of 1 bit. Identification ID will be of 1 bit. Then the length of the information, whether it's the information of 1500 bits, whether it's the information of 800 bits, that information is available along with the padding information for the payload. Then forward error correction code, that is frame check sequence, and this is how the LCP packet is encapsulated in a frame. Here we are having the payload. Payload is our actual information. This actual information will consist of the length of the information, identification associated with the information, and the code for the LCP packet. The LCP packet code 0x01, configure request, configure acknowledgement, configure no acknowledgement, configure reject. These are all the ARQ configurations that we have seen for the HDLC protocol. That provides us the configuration for accepting or rejecting or discarding the specified packet which contains of the frame information from the sender. These are the various codes 0x01, 0x02, 0x0b, discard request, echo reply, echo request, protocol reject, code reject, terminate acknowledgement, terminate request, configuration rejection, configuration no acknowledgement, configuration acknowledgement, configuration request contains all the list of proposed options and all their values. These are the link control protocol packets. Here the basic concept associated, maximum receive unit, the payload field size that was defined 1500 bits. That is, if your payload contains only 1000 bits, then add additional 500 padding bits, so that maximum receive unit will be of the specified size. Then protocol field cooperation was not at all provided. Address and control field compression is not at all provided in the PPP type of protocol. But here the important concept of MTU or maximum receive unit, payload field size, that was defined to 1500 bits. This actually provides us authentication packets. These authentication packets for the PPP frame. See here, the user is actually requesting for authentication. The system is providing the authentication for acknowledgement or authentication no acknowledgement. The PAP packet specifically for authentication request will be consisting of code, identification, length, then username and password. The password that was typically utilized was of 1 byte. 1 byte password. Then it was after that it was suggested that 1 byte is not at all sufficient. So the password was kept of a variable length. So the password length and what might be the length of the password, that is also sent in the authentication request. If the authentication username and password are verified by the system, the authentication acknowledgement is sent from the system to the user. If the user is not authenticated, then again authentication not acknowledged will be sent from the system to the user. And if the authentication is not acknowledged, then you are again terminated from the point-to-point establishment of the link. It's a specific protocol, challenge handshake authentication protocol. Here it's the challenge that is provided for the system. Along with the system then provides the challenge to the user, whether you are this particular user or not. Then if you are responding to that particular challenge, it may be the type of challenge nowadays that's a typical CAPTCHA type of challenge that is provided from the system to the user. Based on that, how the user responds, system identifies that particular challenge, and if it's successful, the success or failure associated with the challenge and response is indicated, and based on that the frame size will differ. Flag, address, control, then the protocol OXC223, that's the protocol. But the payload will consist of the CHAP packet encapsulation in a PPP frame. Frame check sequence and flag is again the same. Remember, two different configurations, PAP configuration and CHAP packets. In case of CHAP, challenge is generated from the system to the user. How the user responds to that particular challenge, based on that authentication depends. Based on that success or failure of the authentication depends. And that's how we are actually utilizing this CHAP concept in establishing PPP type of protocol. Then typical control information, internet protocol, control protocol, packet encapsulation in the point-to-point protocol. The code value, configuration request, configuration acknowledgement, configuration no acknowledgement, or configuration rejection. If configuration is rejected, the connection cannot be established. If the termination request is provided having a specific code size 0x06, then that termination acknowledgement will be provided. If the code rejection is available, then it's 0x07. That will be the code that will be sent. Here actually the concept associated with the header, whether that header consists of the payload with padding for the user data and the header, that actually form the IP packet. This is again for multi-link point-to-point protocol. For channel 1, for channel 2, you can provide a multiple authentication for connecting multiple terminals to the service provider. So channel 1 will be utilized for user 1, channel 2 will be utilized for user 2. The service provider will provide the connectivity with the same type of TCP configuration, that is confirming the availability of the data communication equipment such as modem at the service provider's end. This actually completes your unit 3. Point-to-point protocol. If there are any difficulties, I'm ready to take the questions. The point-to-point protocol is one of the important protocols that gave rise to the rise of internet. That is a user connecting the internet service provider with dial-up modem. The similar type of modem array will be available at the service provider's end. If the modem is not at all available, your connection will be terminated. If the modems are available, your connection will be established with the support of PPP protocol, point-to-point protocol. Are there any difficulties, doubts? For today's batches for the practical, I will show you the animations associated with the basic protocol. Wait and stop and wait ARQ, go back and ARQ. All those 3 protocols, we will see actually the animation that will entirely clear your concept associated with these protocols. We'll also see the animation if it's available. We will find out the animation associated with PPP protocol. But the animations associated with the 3 protocols that we have seen for the data link layer, stop and wait, go back, and selective repeat request, that will entirely clear your concept for the data link layer protocol. And then we'll see also the animation. Or in the tomorrow's lecture, we'll see the animation associated with point-to-point protocol, how actually it works. SDLC protocol, point-to-point protocol. Are there any difficulties? I'm open for any sort of difficulties. The concepts are quite important. Puya, Pooja Pawar, Pooja Narute. Sanika. Any doubt, any difficulty, Sanika? No doubt. Kedar.
Yes, sir.
Any doubt associated with what we have learned today?
No, sir.
The concept is quite clear.
Yes, sir.
We'll stop here only. Tomorrow we'll consider the animations associated with PPT and we'll start with unit 4.